Welcome to the first 30 days. Over the next 3 episodes, you will see a case study evaluation assessing an immigrant's first 30 days in America. Each episode will cover 3 sections: physical health, mental health, and social acculturation. Today, our topic surrounds mental health.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Marrin, and this is my show, The First 30 Days. Welcome to our second episode in this incredible 3-part series. The first 30 days is about creating understanding of the difficulty of the immigration journey, as immigration research is often approached from a policy perspective and rarely focuses on the humans involved, thus dehumanizing the issues and generalizing the experience of all immigrants. And as a proud daughter of an immigrant, although I understand the complexities of this journey, I know that's not the case for everyone. The first 30 days is not just about standing in someone's shoes, but actually hearing what they hear, seeing what they see, and feeling what they feel, in efforts to bridge that gap in understanding. I hope that you listen with an open mind and heart. So let's get started. Reminder to everyone that this show surrounding immigrants' mental health is going to be discussed through a case study. Again, here's our person. Her name is Isabella. The basic facts are that she's 21 and she just immigrated from Guatemala on an asylum visa. She doesn't know anyone and she speaks minimal English. But who really is Isabella? She's a proud daughter of a single mom, loves a hot cup of coffee in the morning, will always make sure to call you back, doesn't like to drive or go to the pool, but is the brightest light when she walks into a room. Of course, she's an immigrant, but first and foremost, she's a person. Within the first 30 days of immigrating to the U.S., Isabella will experience changes within her body, soul, and spirit. To begin, we'll focus on the soul and her mental health. We will evaluate her mental health in 2 segments. First, the effect of anti-immigration rhetoric. Second, the trauma of the immigration journey. It's important to note that the borders around the United States are no longer just a boundary between 2 nations, but a division between 2 sides of citizens' opinions. Specifically, the southern border of the United States has become one of the most controversial lines drawn in sand, with the shadow of detrimental Hispanic stereotypes casting over that crossing. A study within the American behavioral scientists discusses these spillover consequences, where the consequences of strict immigration enforcement policies spill over, which affect all Latinos, non-discriminating on legal status. In the name of national security, enforcement agencies disrupt families and the Hispanic communities all across the U.S. The authors state that within the gaps of proper immigration reform, the negative perceptions will have impacts on the Hispanic community that will last for generations. Though now tension between immigration and the border can be felt within America, this anti-immigration rhetoric has always been there. So, looking through the lens of Isabella, even though she has legal status, it will still impact her mental health. Particularly, a negative political environment can exacerbate the negative effects on all immigrants, like Isabella. These perceptions and stereotypes can lead to internalized stigma that increases stress, leading to other mental health issues like anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, and PTSD. And if this is not enough, fear of seeking medical attention, possibly due to a lack of insurance, like we discussed in last episode, can worsen these symptoms. Of course, mental health issues don't just affect your mind. These health issues impact your ability to get a job, have an education, and your quality of life. And if you still don't get it, look at these tweets, headlines, posts. Imagine leaving your country, terrified, in search of a new life, and this is what you're welcome with? How would this impact you? How would this affect your self-esteem, your sense of self? Going further into this topic, within the paper Estamos Traumados, the authors separate the effect of anti-immigrant policy and sentiment on Hispanic immigrant families into 3 parts. The first part is arriesgando la vida, risking our lives, which is defined by the dangers of crossing the border. The second is mirando por la ventana, looking out the window, which discusses the constant fear of deportation that immigrants live in. The third category is estamos traumados, we are traumatized, which is the effect that immigration has on future generations. Immigration takes a toll on the psychological and physical body of an immigrant, as well as the societal impact within the U.S., all leading to a decline in mental health. The authors make the argument that policymakers need to reframe the ideas of a legal immigrant to trauma survivor to truly begin to change the perception of the immigrant journey. I was fortunate enough to speak with Dr. Rafael Martinez, an assistant professor in the Southwest Borderlands Initiative at Arizona State University, about the effect of immigration trauma on immigrants.
A lot of your work surrounds obviously psychological challenges and like individuals that when crossing the border. I was wondering if you could do like a broad scope of the key psychological challenges, physical challenges that individuals face when making the journey to the U.S.
So I write a lot about that kind of type of trauma, but I also, trauma, there's two sides to trauma, right? One of them is, of course, the psychological impacts and effects that it has on individuals. And then the second part of it is resilience, right? Because we shouldn't just talk about the negative or the positive. It needs to be a multifaceted approach. For example, I'll give you a quick example. I grew up as an immigrant myself, and people always complimented, "You're very organized, you're very time oriented." And I said, well, I had to be, right? When you don't have the privileges of driving a car, right, because of driver's licenses, you have to plan your whole day out from the time that you leave the door to the time that you come back home, because otherwise your survival or your well-being is impacted on a daily basis, right? So I just wanted to bring that equation, that those are the type of traumas that youth have to face when they come of age, and then the mixed status families or the families can be a support system, or it could be an additional stressor.
I was wondering more like, what do you think are like the most significant barriers to migrants and immigrants that they face when trying to access mental health care to possibly like either prevent kind of the negative side effects of those issues or deal with them?
Yeah, well, I would say that starting from the basic idea of access or seeking help is a barrier, because, of course, any institution, including the medical institution, is associated with the state, right, with the government. And so therefore, if you go to the doctor, they're going to ask for information to admit you as a patient, even if it's mental health access, And so that the fear, of course, is that how am I going to share my status, let alone my story of trauma, right, with somebody who might be associated with, institutional governmental agencies. So, and rightfully or wrongfully, because of course that doesn't necessarily mean that mental health practitioners are connected to government agencies, but that alone is a fear, right? The other thing, as you mentioned, is many of our immigrant communities coming from a background of trauma already in their migration patterns to the United States. And so the idea of, talking about it requires a level of trust, of engagement, whether it be with a professional or with, a friend or family member. And so typically those things don't, that relationship it's not easy, and it's not cultivated right away. And then, of course, there's the access to financial means, right? Because mental health requires, like any other medical care, requires money. And so there's the access to, we think about clínicas comunitarias that are available in many communities, but most of those mobile or community-oriented clinics, most of them are dealing with, very what's the word? Dire situations where they're trying to help people, survive, really medical complications where mental health ends up taking a second or third, precedence. And so those are some of the factors that come to mind in terms of, challenges or barriers to access mental health.
That was a lot of information. Let's summarize what we've learned today and have our final check-in with Isabella. Anti-immigration rhetoric has a direct mental health impact on Isabella and all immigrants. The current public opinion on immigrants perpetrated by politicians fuels an unjust hate and violence against this community, our community. The journey of immigration takes a toll on the psychological health of all immigrants. The trauma of being in an unknown country with an unknown language cannot be understated. For Isabella, leaving on an asylum visa, this trauma runs deep. From her home country riddled with violence to the United States, a place way more complex than the simple idea of an American dream. In the first 30 days in the US, Isabella's mental health will decline. From an onslaught of anti-immigrant sentiments to the trauma of the journey, Isabella's first month will be filled with anxiety, depression, and even PTSD. Isabella shows us that immigration is not relocation. It's an incredibly powerful and transformative journey, which makes America who we are. Immigrants built America, and at a great personal cost. Isabella is a part of that, I'm a part of that, and you are a part of that story. You know an immigrant. Our friends are immigrants, our parents are immigrants, I am the daughter of an immigrant. This title does not even begin to define this diverse group of people. Before you make a snap judgment about us, about who we are, I ask you to listen. Listen to our dreams, to our sueños.
My name is Andres Armenta, and I am the product of some pretty badass Mexican parents. My biggest dream professionally would probably be to start working on, or to work on documentaries, whether that be for news or for sports, but doing something long form that can make an impact on a lot of people would be something I'd be interested in doing. I see myself hopefully doing something that I enjoy, or in the realm of creating videos and telling people stories. I have a passion for storytelling, and I enjoy bringing people's interests and their unique life stories to life through video and audio and digitally. And so anywhere I can be where I can do that is where I would like to be in 5 years. I'd say I'm most inspired by my parents. They're first generation, grew up in Tijuana, came to the United States, got their degrees, my mom got her master's. They worked very hard for what they do and were able to provide for me and give me an opportunity to succeed now. And I try to constantly remind myself that they are who I should strive to be, and just the way they work. And maybe even though they don't do what I want to do professionally, their work ethic, their ability to manage what they've been through is something I inspire to be.
That was the first 30 days. Make sure to watch our next episode surrounding social acculturation. I'm Natalia Marrin, and goodbye for now.